Okay, to solve for the polynomial for this part that's left, this part right here, what we're going to do is we're going to use these numbers that we found of what numbers multiplied to a times c and added to b, and we're going to use these, if we use the kick-it method, we're going to use these as what we call our fake factors. So I'm going to take these, I'm going to actually write them as factors, but we know they aren't the real factors because my a is not equal to 1, and I'm going to write these out like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this a part up here, this 3, and I'm going to divide my fake factors by a 3. And you notice when I'm dividing these fake factors, I'm dividing the numerical part. So this 6 is divided by a 3, and this -1 is divided by a 3. Now, if my factors divide evenly, for in this instance, in this case, 6 divided by 3 gives me a 2, I'm going to go ahead and divide, and I'm going to get an x plus 2. And then on this side, I see that I have a x and a -1 and a 3. Well, I know that a -1 cannot divide evenly by 3 because I get 0.33333 because it's a third. So instead of dividing, I'm going to take this 3 and I'm going to do what we call kick it. And I'm going to kick it in between the parenthesis and the x. I'm going to kick it to the front, and I'm going to write that out as 3x minus 1. And I would have then my two factors, and I would see that x is equal to a -2 is one of my zeros, and x is equal to a 1/3 is another one of my zeros. And that's one method of doing it called kick it. A lot of my students like it because it's pretty easy. The other method is a method, of course, I learned in school, and I believe Miss Ferguson taught it last year. It's actually a very good method to learn because you use it in later stages of math. So that's one of the reasons we teach it to you at an early stage. All right, in this example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this 6 and -1 again. And so we're going to use those pieces again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 5 and I'm going to rewrite it into two things that add to a 5x. So I'm going to say turn this 5x into a 6x minus an x. And if I do that, I can see that that -1 is here with the -x, and the 6 goes in front of here. And what I used to call this is the split B, like a split pea soup, but instead of split B, I call it split B. And we're splitting our B. So now I'm going to take this whole thing, and I'm going to rewrite it with my B split. And I'm going to have 3x squared plus 6x, this is where I'm doing my splitting my B, minus x minus 2. And there you have it with our split B right here. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I am going to take this and I'm going to split it in half again. And what I want to do is I want to factor out anything in common on this side. And I see that both of these have a 3 and an x in common. So I'm going to factor out a 3x. And if I factor out a 3x from a 3x squared, I'm just left with an x, and I'm going to put that in parentheses. And if I factor out a 3x from the 6x, all I'm going to be left with is a 2, so this x plus 2. All right, now, it's real important to check to see if you did this correctly, and what I do is I check. If I went ahead and distributed this 3 back in here, I would get back a 3x squared, check, and if I distribute this as 3x into the 2, I would get back a 6x, and I look at this and I go, check, that's correct, so I know that I factored that out correctly. All right, now, if I have this on this side, I actually have to have this x plus 2 on this side. So I'm going to go ahead and write this out. And then, because I know if I have this on this side, whatever's in parentheses, I have to also have in parentheses on this side. And what I find out is to get an x plus 2 then on this side, what I would have had to factor out is a negative. Now let's do our check again. If I multiply this negative times an x, I get back a negative x, check. And if I multiply this negative x to the 2, I get back a negative 2, check. So I know that's right. All right, now this negative really is a -1, so I'm going to put a 1 right there just so it doesn't confuse us. All right, now what I say is I'm going to take both of these things that are in parentheses, and I'm going to write this out as x plus 2. And then I always tell my students, now I'm going to write the leftovers. This is what I'm going to have for lunch tomorrow, my leftovers. And I'm going to take what's left over after I take out the x plus 2 everywhere, and I see that I have a 3x and a -1, and that is the group it method, and you can see it gives us the same factors as our kick it method. So either method that you want to use is fine with me.